2022. We ask that you please silence your cell phones before the event to honor today's speakers. Our first speaker today is Calder Beasley. Calder will be introduced by his brother, Nate Beasley.
So Calder and I are introducing each other. We wrote each other's introductions, so actually Calder wrote this. Not only that, I have not seen it, and he has not seen mine, so this will be my first and your first time experiencing this. Hey, it's Nate Beasley! And I could not be more elated to introduce my favorite brother, no, favorite person, Calder Beasley. I've known him since we met in the womb about 18 years ago, 1 month, and give or take 15 days ago. So I had a lot of time to witness how amazing he is. Here is my list of favorite things about Calder. Number 1, I love sharing a room with him. He is the best, most organized roommate, and I really wish we could room together in college next year. Number 2, I love how he is so stoic and quiet about his vegetarianism and lactose intolerance. It is truly inspiring to see how disciplined he is when it comes to not eating dairy. 3, but my favorite thing about him is that he only plays Taylor Swift every time we get into the Mini Cooper. What else could I possibly want to listen to? It's honestly difficult for me to think of something bad to say about my dear twin, so good luck, Calder. You're gonna do great.
That was really poetic. Hi, I'm Calder Beasley, and I do not like to lose. I find this statement to be fairly relatable. No one likes losing. Whether it be a friendly match of tic-tac-toe or an intense period of Miss Crawford's Survivor, I don't like to walk away from a game defeated. Sometimes, I will go a bit too far to assure that I reside comfortably on the winning side of any contest. These tendencies are the reason my family will not play Monopoly with me. For some reason, they do not enjoy the fact that I can be found swiping money from the bank or tucking properties into my pockets to pull out later. My cunning habits of trickery and thievery do not stop at the classic capitalist board game. Whenever I participate in a game requiring a deck of cards, I have an insatiable urge to know everyone's hands, and I will go to great lengths to find this private information. I have been the root of destruction for many games of poker, hearts, and BS. When playing spoons with the cross-country team for state, I often make illegal trades with the players placed adjacent to me, and I do believe there was one moment during the game where I had at least 12 plastic spoons shoved in my sleeves, pants, hair, and shoes, just in case I ended up spoonless at the end of a round. Not to brag, but I did manage to win the 2021 cross-country state spoons game. Honestly, I find myself more focused on plotting my deceitful path to victory than I am enjoying the fun of a game with my family or friends. I, Calder Beasley, am a cheater. It feels good to get that off my chest. I was super nervous to come up and share that bit of information about myself because at Collegiate, I feel like I have a reputation to uphold. Not only am I the vice president, but I've served on the honor board for the past 3 years. So I can't really break the rules. Both my parents teach here, so I have to be smart, or at least seem like I am. I have to take all the hardest classes, I have to constantly work on my homework, I have to supply Quizlets for every vocab quiz or biology test, I have to win every gym kit, and I have to obsess over my grades. Honestly, I find myself stressing more about certain aspects of high school than I am enjoying the fun of being a 17-year-old. In my head, the alternative to perfectly completing all of my assignments to the best of my ability is failure, and I am afraid of failure. This information might not be shocking news because no one likes failing, but I take it to the extreme. I can barely tolerate mediocrity. I remember breaking down into tears in 6th grade when I checked Bear Cross and saw that my perfect A-plus report card was tainted by a single A in global studies. Following this realization was a strongly worded email sent to Mr. Holland regarding the discrepancy. And it turned out to be a mistake on his behalf. But that information did not relieve my manic spiral, and my academic perfectionism continues until today. If I come across an activity for which I cannot immediately express proficiency, I usually quit and move on to something else. This unbecoming perfectionist tendency of mine was on full display at my last visit to the eye doctor, when I tried contacts for the first time. When my doctor handed me a box of trial contacts, I could barely contain my excitement. He sat me down across from a lovely optometrist, and with a plexiglass shield dividing us, she began to instruct me on how to place the small plastic discs in my eyes. After an hour of me gagging to hold back vomit, as I came nowhere close to sticking my finger in my eye, she suggested that I was just a glasses person. Just a glasses person? I don't think so. Dissatisfied with my obvious failure, I stubbornly stayed at the table for 45 more minutes until my mom dragged me out of the office and into our car. It was at that moment that I refused to touch my eye ever again, and I resigned myself to a contactless life. My fog-covered glasses remind me of my failure every single day. The intense pressure that I place on myself can feel a bit debilitating at times, so I have managed to find specific outlets where I can escape the competitive perfectionist version of myself and simply stop for a moment and take a breath. Ironically, my favorite time to stop and take a breath is when I'm running, an activity that involves a great lack of stopping and a constant shortage of breath. I love to run because I can never perfect it. When I began running in 7th grade, it took me 18 minutes and 15 seconds to run a 3K. In the middle school cross-country meets, I would run in the back of a race with the other asthmatics and kids who twisted their ankles in the first 100 meters. And instead of competing for time, I would usually make a friend, run alongside them, and then have a delightful conversation that made the torture of cross-country a little bit more bearable. Running was painful and arduous and tedious. Now senior year, it takes me 18 minutes and 5 seconds to run a 5K. I don't have the time or energy to chat with anyone around me, but running still feels the same. It is still painful and arduous and tedious. After 6 years, I still get cramps, I still get teary-eyed, and I still throw up after my races. And to most people, this idea sounds awful. The concept that as you improve, the sport remains just as hard and sometimes even harder. However, as sadistic as it might sound, I find solace in the idea of continual suffering. There is no way to be a perfect runner, so I don't have to waste any time trying to be one. When I'm too tired to run, my other favorite method of evading my intense perfectionism is baking. Many people don't view baking as a relaxing pastime due to its exacting and detail-oriented nature. As an exacting, detail-oriented student, one would expect me to thrive in the kitchen. That is not the case. I am awful at baking. Besides my one staple recipe that I turn to for every advisory treat or Food Friday in strings, I ruin everything I set out to bake. After years of trying techniques and researching recipes, every attempt at concocting a delicacy results in a haphazard conglomeration of ingredients. Some of my favorite failures include the mac and cheese waffles that emerged from my waffle maker blackened and crumbling, the half-baked strawberry brownie monstrosity that made my entire house smell like a 6-year-old's birthday party, or the extremely overcooked skyline chili pie that triggered my smoke alarm with its noxious fumes. The pull of perfectionism disappears when I begin to bake. When I stand at the counter and whip out the latest 2-ingredient vegan, gluten-free, sugar-free brownie recipe, the surrounding area becomes a war zone as my family scatters to find a location as far away from the kitchen as possible. Once I begin, measurements become suggestions and substitutions become mandatory. Cleaning as I bake becomes as absurd as reading the full recipe before I begin. The numbered steps written in painful detail by a mommy blogger in Oregon transform into a means of producing the exquisite taste of freedom. I can release my tendencies of intense over-preparedness, extreme attention to detail, and crippling anxiety because I know I will be okay, even if my taste buds are not. I am not perfect, nor will I ever be, and I think I'm okay with that. As I progress through my senior year, I am slowly escaping the torture of constantly expecting my best, and I'm finding the joy in being good enough. Just this Monday, marked the first time that I failed to complete a reading assignment for English. This was the first time I didn't do a homework assignment in 13 years. And honestly, it was exhilarating. Sorry, Dr. Silver. My final message is not to avoid your homework, but to understand that everything does not have to work out perfectly, because it rarely will. I realized that I can't always be a beautiful stacked tower of perfect cookies, acing every assignment and winning every game of cards. Sometimes I am the charred chili pie set on top of the oven, smoking and inedible, that just can't seem to put in his contacts or finish The Invisible Man. I can be both, and that is perfect to me.
Our second speaker today is Nate Beasley. Nate will be introduced by his brother Calder.
Just to reiterate, I have not seen this piece of paper before in my life. Let's get another round of applause for my speech. As much as I would love to talk about myself more, I am actually here to introduce my twin brother, Nate. A lot of people compare me to Nate because we are twins. But that is like comparing apples and Brassica oreca. Brassica oreca is a plant responsible for cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, kale, Brussels sprouts, collard greens, savory cabbage, kohlrabi, and gailan. That's right, it's all botanically the same. Much like Nate, there are so many different aspects to just this one plant. I'm so sorry. While you may look at a bushel of Brussels sprouts and a heap of collard greens and say, those two things can't possibly have the same taxonomic classification, Nate sees the two facets of one plant. Nate has so many different interests and hobbies. He says weird things constantly, and he wears the wildest clothes. So how do you introduce someone like Nate? The wild cabbage of people. Well, I think it calls for an impression. Hey, I'm Nate, and here's my senior speech.
As many of you know, I can dress in somewhat unorthodox ways. I like being myself and expressing that through my appearance, but my relationship with clothing and self-expression hasn't always been this ostentatious. Throughout middle school, I struggled with confidence and constantly worried about what others thought of me, so I hid it. Throughout my time in Collegiate, though, my individual identity and how I communicate that to the world has definitely grown and solidified. When I was much younger, I was generally apathetic about any sort of style. I wore neon shirts and shorts, which often matched, and buzzed my hair. And I thought I looked very cool. Now I know that those choices were not entirely my own. I was encouraged to wear bright colors and see neon basketball shorts as the epitome of style. Really, it just made it easier for my family to find me in a crowd when I would inevitably wander off as the wayward child that I was. My dad told me how cool I would look with a buzz cut, but now I just see that it made it easier for him to not have to take me to the barber's and cut my hair in the backyard. Transitioning in middle school, I realized I looked like an anthropomorphized highlighter. I began dressing for comfort more than anything. In fact, I scoffed at those obsessed with their looks. It wasn't until I entered high school that I started to come into my own style. Many people noticed my hair first. Most assume that my colored hair is much more deliberate or meaningful than it actually is. I enjoy standing out and having fun colors on my head, and since hair is a very temporary thing, I'm free to mess up or experiment without permanent implications. However, having dyed hair opens one up to a world unknown by many. when your hair is dyed unnatural colors, sometimes people think they automatically get to talk to you about it. Don't get me wrong, I love a compliment or a genuine question, but sometimes people just want to talk about themselves. I know someone who dyed their hair too, or I like the last color better. In the nicest way possible, none of these things necessarily affect me. Yet these unsolicited comments have spurred a realization. Nobody enjoys the restrictiveness of social norms. People view me as someone who has, rather publicly, shunted social expectations, and therefore, as someone who will not judge them. Through my personal expression, I've learned not to judge others, but what I've learned more is that many people crave to be free from social restriction. My choices lead to others feeling a little more secure in their uniqueness, and while that is not my main goal, contributing towards normalization and making others feel more confident is a wonderful byproduct of my chemically pigmented follicles. Now, if they're not looking at my head, they might be looking at my feet. I receive compliments on my shoes, usually because they're colorful and out there. Though I had been mocked for regularly wearing basketball shoes, even though I haven't played since the 8th grade. For a long time, I did not see the need to have more than 2 pairs of shoes. But I've since come to see the merit of having different types of shoes, and now boast over 4 pairs of kicks. There's a method how I pick up my shoes. I go to the Nike outlet, I find my way to the back wall, and I select a pair of shoes that are just garish enough to give me a slight headache. For some reason, most of these shoes tend to be on sale. I think it is fun to stand out, and even with the dress code, I can always show off my shoes. I own 3 different pair of black boots, but they all have bespoke purposes, and even though most people can't tell the difference, or even know that I have multiple pairs, they all make me happy. Finally, I own 1 pair of Johnverse. Johnverse is a portmanteau of jean and Converse, since I couldn't really blend jean and shoe. These denim high tops with sunflowers on the sides and Johnverse scripted along the heel helped complete my full denim outfit, or Canadian tuxedo. I probably spent way too much money customizing and ordering these shoes, but they never fail to make me smile and complete an outfit. All of my shoes are authentically me. My clothes have become the most arcane conduit through which I express my style. I dress exactly how I want to, and I'm not concerned with what anyone else thinks of my appearance. I'm well aware that I'm throwing an absolute fit, so if someone cannot see that, I have no obligation to rectify their imperception. I don't dress to look good to others. I dress to look good to and for myself. Looking good to others is just an added benefit. Contrary to popular belief, I'm actually never overdressed. Everyone else is just underdressed. Sometimes my clothes are extravagant, as I'm sure you've seen. My flowy stars and moon shirt with matching high-waisted jeans definitely makes some people stop to look twice. And it wouldn't be a stretch to say that my Halloween costume is made up of clothes that I will wear outside the appropriate season. I often use an airplane seatbelt to hold up my pants. It's a little weird. Yet my clothes don't have to be over the top to make a statement. Some of my favorite shirts are my 90s Taco Bell uniform, my Jason Derulo Talk Dirty Tour t-shirt, and a piece of official NASCAR merchandise with 4-time NASCAR Cup Series champion, 3-time Daytona 500 winner, and 5-time Brickyard 400 winner Jeff Gordon on the front, and everyone's favorite Gungan, Jar Jar Binks on the back. While these shirts may be considered tacky by some, I take pride in wearing them because they make me happy. I have multiple shirts that I saw and thought, oh wow, that is so ugly, why would someone sell this? As I'm clicking add to cart. Some people think that my Canadian tuxedo is tacky or brash, but if I were not supposed to wear denim pants, shoes, jacket, shirt, riddle me this, why was any of that made? I know exactly what I enjoy, and I'm not necessarily too concerned with the feasibility or general acceptance of my outfits. I have confidence in how I look, which is something that seemed so unattainable just a few years ago. Honestly, I can only speak to that acquisition with 2 pieces of advice. 90% of confidence is faking confidence, because if you can fake it well enough, most people can't tell the difference. Everyone is concerned with themselves too much to judge. The other thing that helps is doing something that makes you feel powerful. For me, that's walking around my house before I go to an important event with a short sword. Dressing up in my finery and then waltzing around with a sword, at least for me, makes me feel confident. While wielding a blade may not bring self-assuredness to you, everyone can find something to make them feel empowered. I implore you to live in your confidence, and soon it will come naturally. My self-expression is unique to me, as it is for everyone else. If you want to dress normally, go for it. But if you feel the urge to express yourself in another way, more power to you. What is important is that you don't owe anyone anything about how you look. I don't let anyone define how I look except for myself. So look how you want to, because in the grand scheme of things, the outfit you choose today doesn't necessarily matter, but the joy you feel definitely does. Thank you.
Our final speaker today is Egu Se. Egu will be introduced by his brother Nay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Before I start, I just want to say a couple words to the faculty and staff. Thank you for always being there for me, supporting me through high school, through everything, through now. I just want to assure you I'm doing well in college. I'm having a decent amount of fun. For those of you that don't know Iku, I say he's hilarious, he's my best friend, and he's a fighter. He's hilarious because he's always laughing, cracking jokes. Whenever you around him, he's making you laugh. Can't really tell right now, or he's just too nervous to laugh right now, but I think he's laughing. He's my best friend because growing up, we used to do everything together. We used to go to church together, and we don't really want to, but we used to play basketball together, go to parties together. I think my favorite memories with him would be our midnight drives after my mom would lecture us about the evils of talking to too many girls. He's a fighter mentally and physically. He has a bad temper. Whenever he gets mad, he'll swing at anybody, even me, even though he has no chance. And he's a fighter mentally. When I heard about the accident, as I was driving back, I thought about the chances of him not coming back at all, and that shook me. Like, I've never lost anybody dear and close to me, and if he hadn't come back, that would have, I don't know what would have happened, but we don't gotta worry about that because he's back. He's back, he fought his way back, and I don't think I really haven't told you yet, but bro, thank you for coming back, because I don't know what we would have done without you. But without further ado, I introduce to you my brother, Iku.
Hi, good morning. When I was a kid, I thought high school was going to be like High School Musical. This joy, happiness, and slightly dramatic beef amongst the groups. But that's not how it went for me. During my high school years, I've had many struggles and problems. From tearing my ACL to my personal problems. I've learned, gained, and strengthened through each struggle and obstacle. Each year I felt like there was a thing. For example, my sophomore year was persevered because that year I tore my ACL and my apartment burned down, and I sent my person to that. This year, as many of y'all know, I got into a car accident that left me in critical condition. And from my recovery, I would say this year's theme is gratefulness. I would like to start off with the fact that I had a beautiful man bun and was such a ladies' man. I was a joyful kid and always did what made me happy. The day of the accident, it was just a normal night and I was hanging out with friends. Though I don't remember much, I just know I was in the car and everything was blank. I woke up and I touched my head, and all of a sudden I was bald with a dent in my head. The dent in my head was my right skull being removed to release some pressure because my brain was swollen. So in other words, if I had not gone bald and got my right skull taken out, I would have possibly been dead. Not much of a high school experience for me. Who would have thought going bald would save my life? Through my recovery, there were 5 things that I hated most: feeding tubes, arm restraints, protective gloves, bed alarms, and not being independent on being dependent on others. Though the nurses and doctors didn't like it, I would always take off the feeding tubes and somehow convince my mom to take the gloves off me. I remember having to shower with my therapist and having to poop in front of other therapists because it was a safety protocol to keep me from falling. When I tell y'all it was a struggle to poop while someone's in the same room as me, it was a struggle. I didn't know whether I should pour it or just throw it in, so I just gave up and held my pooping. There were many things I hated. There were also things I loved. I created many good relationships with my therapists, nurses, aides, and doctors. I remember creating a bond with Billy Joe, calling her my dog. She was cool, maybe way too cool, because she somebody added me on Facebook. There was also a nurse named Summer. I kind of had a crush on her. Not like a full crush, but a slight crush. Because she was pretty and she would never snitch on me for watching Netflix. Because that wasn't what you're supposed to do. Yeah, and I got the gist of what it was like for me in the hospital. From this experience, there were so many things I realized to be more grateful for. I like to begin with family. I enjoyed it whenever my brothers would visit and take care of me. They were always there for me when I was a kid. Growing up, I wanted to be like them and I looked up to them. They become father figures to me. They would always bring me food to eat, not the plain hospital food. And they would also make me laugh. Through their presence, I felt encouraged to keep pushing. Now my mom, though she was insane about making me eat bananas, she was always there to take care of me. She was always there when I was hungry, when I needed to go to the bathroom, and she was there to hug me whenever I cried. I'm also grateful for the fact that I can walk now, because it was a struggle being on a wheelchair and a walk-in hospital. Not being able to walk for 63 days or more was quite the struggle. I've already told her this, but I could thank her a billion times, and it wouldn't describe how grateful I am for any 50-year-old. Tommy's mother was basically a stranger to me at first, but she still helped me regardless of that. She became not only a best friend, but also a mother to me. She made the recovery process of staying at the hospital so much easier. We would always laugh and watch Netflix together. I remember my face made me start hurting days after my surgery because Annie would keep me laughing. She even sneakily threw a banana or two away from me that my mom was making me eat. I also remember saying that she had Jesus hands because they were so soft whenever she rubbed my foot that had a stick in it. It distracted me from the pain. Our bond was so tight, we even started having conversations in British accents. Not to mention, I started having convos in British accents with my therapist because I'm just a trendsetter. I think my accent is obviously better than hers. I loved her like my own mother. She welcomed me into her own family. She was there to hold my hands whenever I got shots. She was there to hug me when my insane doctor was squeezing my foot. And she was there to listen to Take Me Home by John Denver with me and my mom when she took me home. Enough of the positive. Let's talk about how she was a bad influence. After the accident, I lost a lot of weight, so she encouraged me to eat desserts and sweets to pep me and drink anything but water because I wasn't much of a sweets man. We would also laugh at my mom when she would just sing out of nowhere or say or yell something unpredictable. And Annie obviously had a huge impact on me, but I influenced her too. Because of me, she started listening to Young Thug and Post Malone. I would also like to thank my friends for visiting me. Shout out to Ben, Loon, Spencer, Aiden, Keith, and Tommy. As visits made staying at the hospital much more entertaining, from Eddie making me laugh to beating Ben Puri and Uno. I loved how Loon would still come to me about girl problems. And I was money man whenever he visited. He would always be prepared to buy me food from Chick-fil-A to Keith's Chicken. He didn't care where he was. He was trying to fat me up. After every single visit, I become closer to them. They become brothers to me, and I love each of them like one. I would lastly like to thank the Collegiate community. I've always had so much support from Collegiate. I'd like to give my 3 greatest advisors. Though she's not here, Miss Kier always helped me from the jump. She was there for me when my apartment burned down. I stayed with her and her family. I enjoyed it when we went out to eat and go get my first manicure. I also like to thank Miss Gahan. She's amazing. She made me awesome cookies and always wrote amazing letters for me. I love how she would always check on me through Annie. I loved every single letter you wrote to me. Yeah, I love talking to Mr. McGuire about me and hanging out with him and his family, and the food that Ms. Schaffberger delivered me. I enjoyed it when all my advisors came to visit and eat down together. I don't really like going to school, but that made me miss school so much. I'm just glad to be back here as a new person. Two things I learned this year was that basically it's just about death. And you gotta be careful for what you still have, even if that's just walking. Thank you.
It's really impossible to follow you 3. So I'm not even going to try. But I would like to just say that I think a lot of times that faculty, I hope you don't mind me speaking on your behalf, but I think when you come to school, we really hope that we help you think. And I think that what you 3 need to know, and what all of our students need to know, is that our students help us learn to love and to live. So I just want to thank you 3 for what you gave us today and how you taught us how to laugh and how to love and how to live. And to all of you, that's true for all of you. So thank you in the ways that you teach us. Let's give one more rousing round of applause. Two quick announcements. 10th graders, you guys have a cookie party today at 12:30 during extended CWP. Sorry, that makes no sense after all of this emotion, but it's a reality, I need to tell you. So at 12:30, there are cookies out on the colonnade.